Welcome back to the Dare to Dream podcast, where we highlight the lessons, learnings, and life changing moments that come from having the courage to follow your dreams. My name is Gregory Russell Benedict,
My name is Vincent Van Patten.
and we are so excited to be catching up. Vinny, I haven't seen you since you've gotten back from Japan. I haven't even talked to you. How's the first week back been?
Dude, it has been up and down, up and down. Well, first down and then up. Um, well, it's great to be on the same time zone. We can
Thank
have this
God.
call at 10 a.m. instead of me being in the morning, you being in the evening the day before. And I'm back in LA. And when I just got back, came home from Tokyo last Saturday. And it was a very emotional final week in Japan. I can't believe it's sinking in a lot more now, but at that time I really couldn't believe I was leaving. And there was just a long process of getting everything moved out, giving away, or trying to sell for very cheap whatever furniture I had, dotting the T's, crossing the I's, all that good stuff. Going to the municipality center, whatever it's called, the town court, I don't know, and filing like the just paperwork stuff. Anyways, it was a process, and at the time it was quite overwhelming, but just can't believe I pulled it off. I'm officially not a resident of Japan anymore, but I got to
Wow.
keep my resident card, which is pretty sweet. I thought I'd have to give that back. So nifty little souvenir.
Not giving that back. That's going on the
No,
fridge forever.
absolutely. They stamped a nice hole in it, so I can officially move back to Japan, but that's a good job. But don't see that happening. Anywho, it was very emotional. Like once I actually got everything out, the apartment was clean. It was me and Coco, my girlfriend, and she left the day before me. And that was really emotional too. It was like us in the empty apartment. I'm like, I'd planned to get a hotel for my last night since everything would be gone. It's going to be a fascinating experience. And I didn't want to ship anything back either. I wanted to just give away a lot of stuff so I could just go home with a big suitcase and a duffel bag and a couple backpacks and just what I could carry and take with me on the flight. And I did. Gave away a bunch of stuff to Salvation Army in Tokyo, which felt really good. Just all the stuff that I'd accumulated in Japan, like books, gave a lot of books, just little fun Japanese things. And like, I thought that I wanted to have them forever, like just a couple things, not like a ton, but
You
like
thought you
my
wanted to have those Japanese schoolgirl outfits forever that you you
oh, I kept
sported.
those. I kept
Okay, great.
those. That
Thank
was one of the few
goodness.
things I kept. Yeah, I'd been wearing it all week actually. Um, little Dragon Ball Z figurine that I got like my first week in Osaka, hand painted, like just it was the coolest thing ever. I had it. I thought that was gonna be like the one thing that I would have forever from like my 20s in Japan. I would have this like Dragon Ball Z anime character, have it on like my desk when I'm an old man. And on the day I was leaving, it broke
No
and like a
way.
piece fell off. I'm like, wow, that's like because I packed it, but it was just amazing that like I kind of saw it, just like okay, that's a sign that its time has come. And I didn't just throw it away; I donated it because I think it could have been easily repaired just with glue. But I was like, yeah, I'm kind of ready to say goodbye to this stuff. Like it's the door is closing and ready to move into the next chapter. So gave away a bunch of stuff. Coco flew back, and then it was just me, and I was staying in Shinjuku by myself in a hotel, and it was pretty cool. It was like a part of Shinjuku that I hadn't been in before, like a charming little part of it. I was like, wow, because it's usually known as just like the party, just kind of wild, touristy part of town. But it was closer to getting to the airport, and I saw that they had like a onsen or like a sento in the hotel. It was just like a jacuzzi basically. I'm like, oh sweet, this will be nice. But then saw that they don't allow tattoos in the hotel, which is like a common thing with onsen, the
Mm.
natural hot springs.
So you got them all removed.
Yep. So I got them all. Just my arms are just covered in what look like black clouds. Just kidding. Anyways, so I'm like, dang it. Well, I'll just look up another Sento to go to for my last night. And the Sento is different from the Japanese onsen. We never actually went to one. I guess you could call Spa World a Sento. We went to Spa World,
You didn't even
right?
take me to Spa World, you
Oh my
bastard.
god.
You keep dangling that out there. Like, oh, remember that time we went to Spa
Oh,
World?
Spa World. Those are the best memories.
We did not go
Spa
because we had just
World.
gotten our tattoos, and I don't think we could get them wet yet. And also, we didn't know if
Mm.
Spa World would let us, or
Was
we
it
didn't even know Spa World existed. So thanks for that.
living in the darkness? Middle Ages. Well, Spa World is this just incredible place. If you go to Japan, especially Osaka, you should really check it out. It's not like the top thing you should do, but it's pretty damn awesome if you have some time there. It's just like a world. It's like it feels like you're in the a lobby of a Las Vegas hotel, like a nice one with just like ballrooms, and there's like five different ones, and each one has a different theme. And there's two floors, one for men, one for women, and one of them is Asia themed and one is Europe. And each month they switch, and I'd only experienced the Europe one, but each room would be like a different country. So there's like Greece, Italy, Spain, Norway, um, something else. And like the Norway one, there's like saunas and there's like a huge cold plunge and like there's wolves. Looks like there's like fake wolves set up. So it just feels like you're in this Nordic environment. And then in like the Italy one, there's like the blue grotto, like a fake grotto, and everyone's just butt naked because that's what you do in Japan and
Perfect.
the spas. So it's just dudes just walking around like this. It feels like a lobby, just like this massive space, just butt naked, just going from spa to spa. It's like a theme park. It's one of the strangest and like coolest experiences ever. That's just part of the Japanese culture, is because we've been butt naked before
Oh
together in
yeah, we
Japan.
have in Japan, in Greece.
Yeah. Um, so that it's a bonding experience. I went with a couple of my other homies in Japan, Pat, Joe, and Santana, who has been on this podcast. We were all just chilling in Spa World, just throwing it up, butt ass naked, and it was awesome. And so that's Spa World. Anyways, so
This
my
whole
last night,
episode is going to be about Spa World, in case you guys haven't noticed
it
yet.
should be. If it's not, I should do an episode on Spa World. Last night in Shinjuku, found this other sento, and a sento is different from onsen, where onsen is like famous. You know, if you go to Japan, it's like the natural hot springs, and they are amazing because since they're natural, you'll find them just in crazy environments all over Japan. Like I've been in one in like a mountain gorge in Shikoku, just like where you take like a funicular down the face of a mountain to get to like the bottom of this gorge. I've been to them just, you know, for Christmas, me and Coco went to this town, Nozawa Onsen, which was one of the coolest experiences I've had in Japan and in my life. It's an onsen town where you just walk from onsen to onsen, and just the whole town just smells like hot springs and sulfur, and the hot water is just running through the streets because it clears the snow. Like it's just this ingenious town. And so just like the experience and like where you are is part of what makes the onsen so cool. The sento, and like there's some that look like straight out of Spirited Away and like snowy uh, canals, and like it's just crazy. The sento is a public bathhouse, and they are like put on by the city basically for people who have like very small homes to just be able to go and like bathe. So since they're put on by the city, they're not private. You could have tattoos, um, and it's not like chic or nothing glamorous about it. They're very like retro vibes. I had one across the street from me in Nakano, where I was living in Tokyo. I didn't even realize for like 2 weeks because it looks like it's just the bottom of like an apartment building. But I'm like, I was looking on the map one day and I saw the little onsen symbol. I'm like, what? What is that? Like the sento. It's just like the steam coming up. And I checked it out. I'm like, oh my God. It's like sauna, cold plunge, the little Japanese showers where you sit on a little stool and like bathe. Um, a little jacuzzi with like just intense jets. It's just like it's a spa. and then like a little outdoor space where you just sit on a chair and just sit in the cold air, and you just repeat. And it's, if you find them in America, spas are like 80 to 150 bucks for the exact same thing. Sauna, cold plunge, jacuzzi and stuff. It's like 650 in Japan, a
Like
thousand
six
yen.
dollars and 50 cents.
Yeah, $650. No, $6.50 for just, and the charm of it, why I like it is it's got just this retro feel to it where it's like all tile walls, tile floor. Um, I've never seen like another foreigner in there, where I've seen a lot in onsen, but it's just like this kind of undiscovered part of Japan that's like such a part of Japanese life, but it's just not really in the common discourse, I guess. Um, Highly suggest it. Look up just Sento wherever you are, and just, it's just usually me and a bunch of old Japanese men, and we're just sitting there in the sauna watching like Shohei Ohtani, who's the Japanese baseball player who's always on all the TVs. He's on the LA Dodgers now, because they have like a little TV in a glass box in the sauna. So it's really funny. And long story short, I'll wrap this up here about the Sentos. But my last night, I just wanted, um, I just looked up one in Shinjuku and just found like the most ideal spot, just like a mile away walk. And I just was cruising around just by myself now, and just taking it all in, just pretty much in awe that it was my last night. And the Sento was awesome. Just hanging out, just spawing down, and turned in early and took off the next day. It was quite surreal. Now I'm back.
Now you are back.
Yeah, bud.
Sounds bittersweet. I'm sure there's challenges of being back, the ups and the downs. One thing I did want to share with you, I know we have some other things we want to talk about today, but I finally got around to reading your book. I've been trying
Oh,
at all costs to not read it, just leaving it places in public, hoping someone will come by and take it.
anyone.
Out on the curb with a free sign. No one wanted it. But I started it last night, and dude, it is so good. It is so freaking good. You are such a good writer, and you're so good at describing what you're seeing, how you're feeling, the thoughts you're having about life as you're seeing and feeling those things. And it is just such a beautiful story. I'm still in the first part when you're in Lisbon, and I started it, and then I was going to read this other book. I'm reading a book called Will of the Many. That's like this epic sci-fi fantasy book that's a bestseller. And I found
Mm.
myself not wanting to stop reading your book to go read that because it was so encapsulating. And there's something about your writing style, at least for me, and I think other people who read your books and your writing feel this. I feel like I'm meditating. Like it's so peaceful, and at the same time as being peaceful, it makes me so grateful because you find so much beauty and happiness in the ordinary everyday, and it really comes through in your writing. And so I just want to say I'm so proud of you. Holding your second book in my hands was this surreal experience. Like it's actually wild that you've written two books. Like it sounds like, oh, Vinny's written two books, and then you hold this thing in your hands and you read the foreword and you see the fonts and you see like every little detail that went into it, and it is unbelievable, and I'm so proud of you.
Wow. Thanks, brother. That means a lot. Seriously. Yeah, man. Wow. This one feels like a big leap from the first one as well. Like with Arrows of Youth, I've never written a book before. It was taking a lot from other people. There's lots of like quotes and stuff as I go along on that journey, and I'm pulling just a lot of inspiration from other people. This was like, it just felt like me really contemplating my own thoughts and what I'm feeling in life. And it's this European journey. The book's called When the Sky Opens and the Answers Shimmer. And it's just about connecting with people. And that is that is what I love to write about. It's like anything is interesting if you see it as such. And that's why I want to have these experiences, and why I have like the Sento experience in Japan just on that last night. And I like can't not write about it because can't even not talk about it on this podcast. Cause it's like, I don't know if that's interesting to everybody. And it's like why I wanted, I'm like, okay, maybe I should wrap this up talking about CentOS. But to me, it's like, it's such a interesting slice of life. And it's something that is not really seen in, the greater discourse of what Japan is. But to me, it was like, this is a vital part of Japanese culture. And I wrote about it on my last story from Japan about just that experience and about the feelings I was having on that last night and just sitting there and just being in this beautiful, surreal, sad, bittersweet moment. And that's kind of what I try to do with the book. It's just whatever I'm going through, I hope to just show people that there's so much beauty out there, and it's not in these crazy things that we think we have to do, or it's not on Instagram, and it's, it's really the free stuff. It's like that's the most beautiful things to me. As they say, the best things in life are free, and just kind of capturing the magic in that and getting back to the source of like who we are and what we're really doing here. That is what I hope to continue doing with the writing, with the books, is just unpacking the layers of what it means to be human and what it means to experience life on this beautiful, complex rock. And I think that book, it's another step in the right direction. I'm very proud of it. So thank you.
It's definitely a step in the right direction. I love it. You do such a good job of going back and forth between dialogue with this cast of characters who you're meeting in the hostel and the thoughts, the musings, the philosophy of it all. What came up for me as you were just sharing, I know we've talked a lot in the past about you being a travel writer and how you don't necessarily resonate with the listicles, like here are 10 things you need to see in Tokyo and all of that. And what just came up for me as you were sharing is I'm wondering if your niche or your genre, your style, like I could see you writing about the overlooked, less sexy, free staples of different cultures, like the Sento, or I don't know what another example would be, but your ability to describe these like normal everyday things that are so ingrained in the culture that tourists and foreigners would overlook because they're going to go see the Instagrammable spot and take a picture of their brunch.
Hmm.
That would be really cool because you make that ordinary experience magical through your descriptions of it. So I'm just putting that
Hmm.
out there, just a thought.
That is yeah, really interesting. And thank you.
Because who
And
does
dude,
that? Does
yeah,
anyone write about the overlooked and make it
yeah,
extraordinary?
dude, I don't know. It's a great point. But just as kind of an example, and what I was thinking about before this and reading the article that we're going to touch on in a little bit, which is saying like that article is about not really striving for greatness. Like it's not the overnight success. What makes somebody great is the small, consistent daily practices, the habits that over time compound and over a journey. That is what brings you to greatness. It's not one off, you know. So yeah, that's the point. And it was at one point saying that, um, Einstein says the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. And so it's saying like iterate, not like make one change a year, but actually every month or like every week, try different things if you want to get on the right path for you. And you got to keep trying things. And then once something works, you double down on that. And then you kind of just take that journey. And I could think of several different areas of my life where I'm trying to do that. And writing is definitely a huge one for me. And I'm just thinking about like writing on Medium. I'm like, am I? Because, and just like the article says, the path to success or greatness or even just doing anything is never going to be a straight up and to the right line. It's not even going to be like up like that. If you're watching this,
Not even a
I'm like
staircase.
up, not even a staircase. It's gonna be up and down, just peaks and valleys. But the trend is going up and to the right, hopefully. And I think about that with writing, and for the last like month in Japan, I was kind of in a lull. It felt like just with the writing, I was a little bit burnt out, and because I was just think I was just doing a lot with trying to move, and it was a little overwhelming all at once. And I was like thinking about just what am I? Is there something I should be changing on Medium? Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I just expecting different results from doing the same thing that I've been doing for like 8 years with writing? Um, but then I went to Taiwan, me and Coco, like 3 weeks before we left Japan for a week, and had this experience where we went to this town called Jiufen, which is this beautiful kind of mountain village just like an hour away from Taipei. We took a bus up there, and it's it's known as it started as like a mining town. It was like a gold mining town back in the 1900s and the late 1800s, and it's kind of turned into over time. Obviously, a lot happened, but eventually, in like the 90s, this artist guy, forget his name, but he went there and he just saw like how beautiful it is and kind of how lost it felt, kind of just nostalgic. And I'm kind of skipping a lot of points about what it is, but he just found a lot of beauty there, and he wanted to create this tea house. And I saw it on Somebody Feed Phil, my favorite show on Netflix, where this guy goes around, and we're going to take his job one day because we're going to be going around and just eating great food and traveling
Yes.
and making, yeah, snide comments. And I saw this place. I'm like, damn, I want to go do that. Just like tea in Jiufen, this village. And we go there, and it's just like pouring rain, beautiful, just little like tiny little alleyways in this little town. Like it's just, you know, rain is falling from the tinny roofs, and there's like red lanterns swaying, and everything's hazy, and the mountainside is all shrouded in fog, and then in the distance is the ocean and like little towns below. And it was just surreal. A lot of tourists. It was like pretty packed, but I was kind of just part of the vibe. You know, there's like tons of food stalls just selling a bunch of different stuff, and it was just an awesome experience. And then eventually we wandered through, and like the path opens up kind of higher up into the village, and we stumbled upon the tea house that I was kind of hoping to find, but I had done like zero research on. Oh, sweet. And it was, I wrote a story about it. It was like the most beautiful experience of just drinking tea in this little mountain village, and just the process of that the guy walked us through it, how to do it. And a couple of days before this, we'd gone and had tea with a friend of a friend. My uncle actually recommended or just set me up with his buddy, like one of his best friends, who lives in Taiwan and is kind of like a tea master. This guy, Wuda is his name. And we visited him in this town called Mali a couple of days before that. And like he just had this whole tea ceremony with us, and just a couple of hours just sitting there drinking tea. And I love the process, how, you know, it's not like a tea bag or something. It's there's like the piping hot kettle just sitting on like coals, on ashy coals, and you fill up the another like urn that has some loose leaf tea in there. It fills up. You like wash out the another little cup. Um, yeah, I'm kind of butchering it, but it's just this process of like filling and refilling, and just there's like a it's all in like a nice wooden beautiful tray, so it's like very imprecise, and there's water spilling out. It's not like a dainty, like careful process. It's like you're just kind of slopping it around, and you fill it up and just piping hot. It's all steamy and everything. I just love that. Just the process of drinking the tea and just like having round, and you drink it out of very little like porcelain tiny cups, and you just keep refilling them. Like we had like literally 20 rounds, and did the same thing in this little tea shop up in the mountains in Jiufen. And it was just me and Coco, and just sitting there in this beautiful building, like just this old building that this artist guy created. And he wanted it to be like a beautiful art center and also a tea house. It's like wooden, just this very old, you know, historic building, stone walls, and then made out of wood. And there's like a koi pond in there and like beautiful ceramics, just very
Stone walls
wa-
made of wood.
stone wooden walls. We were like in a stone room, but everything else was kind of wooden, stone and wood, classic. And it was just this, just sitting there, just like not really having anything to do, but just sit and drink tea. Both had our journals and we're kind of doodling, and it was beautiful. And I wrote that story and submitted it on Medium to this publication called Globetrotters, which is where I usually send like my travel stuff. And the editor like sent me back some recommendations of ways to improve it, and I did. And the article got like curated, so it got picked up by Medium and distributed to a lot more people. And I just realized like, and I like, I did the research to do a little historical background on the town and like what had happened. It was like occupied by the Japanese for a long time, and just, or all of Taiwan was. And during that time is when the gold mining really was blooming the most. And anyways, just putting in a lot of more effort into it, because most of my articles are just my thoughts, and it's kind of poetic. It's just me thinking without having to really pull in a lot of sources and stuff. But for this one, did the research on history. I added just kind of more cultural stuff about the food in Taiwan and stuff like that. And it did really well. People were just like blown away by it. And wow, okay, so in the article he says if you were to do this thing every day for a year, would you be making progress in the right direction? And if you are, that's pretty much what it's a great place to start. I'm like, yeah, if I wrote articles like that, which I actually did really enjoy, it definitely took a lot more effort every day, I'd definitely be growing on Medium, and like probably a lot. It's like maybe that is, I'm not going to write every article like that because I have to have these pretty sweet experiences, but it was just having tea in like a new place. And there was a lot of just my own personal opinions and the joy that it gave me in there. And I think that's what people liked about it. So sorry, I brought that all up just to show that I do love those experiences more than anything. Like just these simple, and you do too. That's why we have had some of our best times just like sitting on a park bench and just taking in life.
Right. One of my favorite experiences from Nagasaki was staying in the hostel pretty much all day, drinking tea and coffee when it was pouring rain.
Yeah, dude, just
Just
pouring
writing in the
rain
cafe,
outside.
writing, reading.
Exactly. We love
So,
that.
question for you. So,
Shoot.
real quickly, for people listening, the article that we're talking about, not the one Vinny wrote, but the one that we've been referencing, is called "How to Be Great?" Question mark. Just be good repeatedly. It's by Steph Smith. We'll put it in the show notes. The question I want to ask you, Vinny, is if you were to do that thing every day, or whatever the equivalent of every day is for those types of articles, because
Mhm.
you can't finish one of those in a day, probably.
Right.
Would you enjoy it?
Yeah. I don't know. That's the thing. It's got to be like with that one. I did enjoy it. It's like looking up the history and stuff. It is interesting. It's not as easy as just writing the just my thoughts spilling out on the page. Um, but I think I would enjoy it. I would enjoy it. It's a blend of my own personal experience with some just context. And yeah, it would be like one every couple of weeks or something, probably. Um, but like I think I'm going to New Zealand next, and it feels like there's going to be more room to explore and kind of just have some more freedom there. Hopefully, kind of bouncing around, doing different jobs and stuff, and maybe that's what I'll try to do is write more like you know accessible. I guess it's not just purely thoughts, but
I mean, it sounds
because
like having the experience is key. That's not changing. But
right,
instead of just writing about the experience with your own thoughts and perspectives, it's bringing in an additional layer of historical facts, knowledge, bringing in a little bit more, I don't know, research was probably the wrong word, but just
yeah, no, it is
having a little bit more for people to grab onto in addition to your viewpoint of the experience.
Yep, for sure. And yeah, where it's been different in the past of like what's I've not felt good doing is like, I mean, I've said this a bunch of times, but yeah, just the clickbait stuff. Like I just want I like depth. I like writing about it, like reading about it. And yeah, that was it's just got to go a little deeper. I just don't like the fluff pieces and stuff and don't have to write them. So,
And that's what I was just going to share, because one of the big principles of this article, how to be great, just be good repeatedly. Consistency is such an important piece of anything. Consistency isn't the panacea for success, but it is probably the most certain path to success. You can reliably be, air quotes, successful at something if you are consistent at it for a long enough time and you are iterating in the right direction, like you talked about before. If you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again and not seeing results, you could be consistent every single day for the rest of your life and you might not go anywhere. But if you're iterating and improving and learning from the mistakes and the successes, then consistency is huge. But it made me think of two things. One, the author who wrote that article, she said that she publishes articles. I can't remember her exact language, but surprisingly infrequently, I think is what she said. Like, sign up for
mm,
this newsletter if you want to get articles from me infrequently. And I thought that was interesting because we all have our weekly newsletter and we all know that you have to be feeding the algorithm and posting and posting and posting. And it made me realize that you can be ridiculously consistent on a different time scale. So if you need 3 weeks to have the experience, to write about the experience, to research the experience, you could be unbelievably consistent at writing a new article and putting it out every 3 weeks or even every month. It was just a
yeah,
mindset shift for me because I do a lot of writing on LinkedIn these days, and I'm writing on LinkedIn 5 days a week. And I'm just thinking in that kind of short cycle, that's what feels like consistent to me. You could write every 3 weeks, every month, and be really consistent if you just stick to whatever schedule works for you.
dang. Yeah, it feels like consistency has to be every day or every week. But that's true. It could be every 5 years. Like Robert Greene publishes a book like every 5 years. That's his consistent, but it's the daily practice of doing the work, and that is what it's a wild thing because it's like how it's hard to sign up for something when you don't know how long it's going to take, or when you think it's going to take like 30 years even to make it, whatever you know what we think is like success, which is kind of the time frame that I'm going for. Like it's it'll be in a couple of years, it'll be like a decade of writing and doing this life. And it's, I've improved a lot and stuff, but haven't like made a splash. I'm not like making my daily bread from it. But how about you? So you are doing the LinkedIn, writing 5 days a week. What ways are you struggling with being consistent? What ways are you finding great successes? What did you take away from the article? Let's hear your thoughts. Lego.
Yeah, I think the first thought that comes to mind is something that came up while we were talking about this consistency topic, which is there's a difference between consistency of inputs and consistency of outputs. So for Robert Greene, the consistent input is he's probably writing every single day or close to every single day, chipping away at those books. And that is consistent input of time on the daily basis. But then if you zoom way out, his output might seem less consistent on the surface because it's every 5 years. But
Mm,
again, if it's that's the piece we can control less is the output. We can control the input more. And that was a big part of this article is focus on what you can do, inputs, focus less on the output. And that's what we talk about, I mean, all the time. You can control the work you put into it. You can't necessarily control the outcome or what comes from it. And that is what I'm living right now through LinkedIn, through this TEDx talk I'm going to give. Like, all I can do is control how many times I write on LinkedIn and how good the writing is. I can't control how many people see it, who shares it, who likes it, who comments. With the TEDx, I have this big lofty goal of getting X amount of views. All I can control is how many times I practice it, rehearse it, how long it took to write the script, how good my delivery is, the gestures, the energy, all of that stuff. And then I'm looking over here. I have this little clicker. It's one of those things that like the bouncer at a bar has when he lets you in and he clicks it and it counts to
Right.
let him know how many people are in there until capacity. And I have this thing and I'm tracking how many times I practice it. So that's an input I can control. I can't control the outcome of the talk. And I think that's a key distinction to make when you're thinking about anything, separating what you can control from what you can't, and then thinking about, okay, is this an input and I can control it, or is this an outcome or an output?
Hmm. Is it going to be a live audience for the TED Talk?
Nope, it is recorded. It's TEDx Studio. So, I mean, there'll
Hmm.
be 20 ish people in the audience, the other speakers, camera crew, seeing if I can bring a guest, but a lot smaller crowd than if it was a live audience.
Gotcha. Yeah, something I want to also bring up about that point is finding joy in the inputs. Because with LinkedIn, are you enjoying it?
I am, because I feel like I've finally found a place to share my writing that kind of aligns. Like I was writing on Medium for so long, but
Hmm.
then I was like, why am I writing on Medium? Because part of the reason I write is to bring people into my world so that they can decide if they want to work with me one on one, in a group, if they want to join my community. So I am enjoying it because it feels aligned. Like it feels like
Hmm.
it's serving my greater purpose of working with more people. And I love to write. So
Hmm.
it feels like it took a long time to figure this out, but it feels like it fits into how I want to share.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, because you're gonna not you, but like you in general, if you don't know the time frame and if you don't know when things are gonna work out, if you hope things are gonna work out at a certain point, if you just do enough things, and that's why you're doing it, you're gonna burn out. You have to enjoy the process of getting to the place. And something that I kind of thought of recently is that every day is a finish line. There's not some like I don't really even know what the my ultimate finish line is. Like every day, if I do right, if I do go to the gym, if I just continue on this path where I feel like I am putting in consistent work and I'm enjoying it, that is a finish line in itself. And try to, I guess, find a thing where the process of doing the thing itself and putting in those inputs, that is enough. Like if I never get to that final destination, um, I'll still have a great freaking life because I'm spending it in this pursuit of something that's really meaningful to me. And same thing with you, obviously. Like we are doing something day in and day out that isn't easy, but it gives us a lot of meaning, gives us a lot of joy, and it makes life interesting. And that is kind of the journey is the destination. Let's just throw that out there. It's like every day is, you know, that is the point because that's what you're spending your time doing. You get to the thing, dude. It's been crazy even finishing this book. I did it, published it, I kind of, and then a lot going on in my life at the time, just moving out of Japan. But I was like, I kind of did it, and there's no huge party or anything. I am gonna
Not yet.
have
Not
a
yet.
release party. Yeah, I will. Let's take some time to really roll everything out. But it's like, okay, did it now. Now what? It's not exactly what you think it's gonna be, but the process of actually writing the thing and being on the train in Japan, like going to work and working on this book and stuff like that. In those moments, I was like, this is unbelievable. I can't believe I'm doing this right now. It's a dream. I'm actually pursuing this life, and it's not. I don't have the job title or anything. I'm just taking it upon myself to do the damn thing and freaking doing it.
That's what's so cool is you're not waiting for permission. You're not waiting for someone to tell you, Vinny, you can be a writer. You can write books. You can publish books. You've done it. And I loved reading that part. I don't know if it was in the author's note or where it was in the book, but just you on the train chopping away little by little at the book and it all coming together.
Yep.
And as we talk about this kind of finding meaning in the pursuit itself, not just the outcome of the pursuit, it makes me think of one of my favorite quotes. I say that about every quote. It's a quote we've shared before. It's by Hunter S. Thompson, and he says, decide how you want to live and then see what you can do to make a living within that way of life. So, first, figure out how you want to live and then see what job, career, vocation fits into that
Mm,
versus what everyone else does is we pick a job, usually based on compensation, if it's close to us, if it's in a city we like, and then we try and fit our life into that job.
mm,
Pay no attention to, do our fundamental values align with this job or are they being violated every single day? If you decide that you want your life to be full of nature, full of free time, have seasons in it like summer, fall, winter, spring, you probably shouldn't move somewhere that's warm all of the time. You probably shouldn't move to a city because there's not that much nature. So instead of figuring out what job you want first, I really think we need to spend some time like, how do I want to live? What do I want my life to look like? And Hunter S. Thompson wrote that in a letter to his friend Hume when he was 23. Insane.
damn. I gotta read Fear and Loathing. Or is that was the movie? It's the actual book
Fear
too.
and Loathing in Las Vegas. I think it's the book. I think it's the book title too. And I haven't read it either. I would love to read it. Let's read it together. Book club.
Let's do it. Putting it down. Yeah, but he's been coming up a lot lately. Freaking Hunter S. Thompson,
Which is
legend,
crazy because like I think him and I
madman.
live very different lives. He
Right.
was a lover of alcohol, drugs, guns, and he was a real iconoclast. Like he loved just stirring the pot and
Yeah.
creating contention.
Big time. Yeah, dude. I've been since being home, just kind of thinking about that a lot. Like, what is it that I mean? Just a couple different ideas on it, but like, suicide in America is. I don't want to just throw out a random thing, but it's pretty damn high, if not the highest out of like democratic nations or it's pretty damn high. And we're like supposed to be the most advanced modern society and most freedom and everything. But it's like because we are so free, perhaps people have lost meaning and we've kind of, well, that's maybe not the best way to say it. Because everything is rather comfortable and because we have a culture that prizes success and fame and everything, people think there's something so deep missing in their lives if they're not on this path to what we think we're supposed to be doing. And we think we're not good enough if we're not making a ton of money. We think we're not beautiful enough if we don't look like all the people on social media. It's so much information, but then you have tribes in Africa who don't prize those things. They're just happy to be with their families, gathering water and food for the day, and they aren't committing suicide. They're just happy to be alive. What's the common ground and the differences there? It's pretty wild. And yeah, just thinking about like what I mean, I got the general concept of how I want my life to look. I want there to be a lot of freedom. I want to be traveling. And I was thinking about just, 5 to 10 years time, what do I really think, what I want things to look like? Because I'm thinking about moving to New Zealand next. Could do like a 1 year working visa. You could get any job. I'd love to be in nature more, do something like work in the land, work with my hands, and of course, writing about the experiences. So that'd be a nice contrast to living in Tokyo. And in the book, I found so much joy in doing that in Italy. I'm like, yeah, I could definitely do that again in New Zealand. Sounds amazing. Um, but I'm like, am I gonna be doing this for the rest of my life? Like moving to foreign countries and just trying to find day jobs to kind of just help me live while I'm there? I'm like, no, this is, I'm 29. My 20s and my early 30s are definitely focused on exploration. Like that is what is driving the machine at this point. Like right now, I'm just back home at my mom's house, back in Los Angeles, kind of as a pit stop between moving to another country. And I'm like, yeah, in five, later in my 30s, I want to have my own home. I want to be starting a community and like I want to be somewhere where it's my stuff, it's my place. Like right now, I really don't care about having a place of my own. I just have my things, and they kind of come and go with me. And I can leave some stuff here, but obviously, I want to have my place in the next 5 years where I want a home. I want to start a family in my later 30s, and at that point, I want to be like an established writer that's getting sent on cool expeditions and like sent out into the world to have these experiences for shorter amounts of time, like a month, I don't know, a month to 3 months or something, and just write about these different things. And then I go back home. And at that point, I'll have a couple more books, hopefully published, and have this magazine going. This podcast will be even bigger. And, you know, these seasons of our lives obviously do change and the circumstances change, but that is still kind of the same lifestyle that I'm living now. It's working on my own schedule and doing it in a way that really brings me joy every day and is making a difference. So I've kind of figured out what brings me the most joy. It's like having that type of experience like I did just drinking tea in Taiwan. I want to be doing that kind of stuff like that and just sharing the stories and showing people the beauty in the mundane and also in the extraordinary. Um, so just, yeah, exactly like you're saying, honing in on what kind of life do you actually want to live, and then what kind of job can I find that will sustain me as I pursue that. And you'll find a lot more meaning in your life, I think, taking that approach rather than the opposite.
I love it. And a question that I want to leave the listeners with, our beautiful, wonderful, illustrious listeners,
Yes.
is ask yourself this question. And it might seem silly at first. What would I do if money weren't an issue? Or what would I do if I had all the money in the world? If you literally had unlimited money, what would you do? And think past the first things that come to mind, because the first thing is going to be probably travel, then buying a home, then like buying your family a home and buying a car. Like think multiple steps past that and keep asking yourself, okay, then what would I do? Then what would I do? And you start to get into these things that come up that are really interesting and meaningful to you. And it's a really fun exercise to do. I highly recommend you do it. And I think that's where we should leave it for today.
Yeah, just to finish off, like I was talking about that. I'll keep this quick here. Because that you get to that point where it's like, if you are still young and you need something to sustain you, that's why old people, it's hard for them to retire because they don't have nothing to do with their lives. Like, if money was not an issue, if you had all the money in the world, what would like give you true joy that is also bringing you meaning? And how can you do that thing now, where you are, and see where it goes?
And as you
Fun,
think about
fun
that,
question.
think about what if money didn't exist? And I know we're getting way out there, but for you, like, let's just think about this real quickly, Vinny. For you, if money didn't exist, you would be writing articles, you'd be writing books, and you would be wildly successful beyond any measure because you are waking up every day and living life how you want to live it. And you're creating these physical things that represent your stories and your ideas and your experiences. There would be no one more successful than you. And just because we live in a society where it takes quite a long time to make it as a writer, there are these feelings of, can I do this my whole life? All these things. And I'm putting words in your mouth, but I just
Pretty much
want
nail
both
it.
you to know that and people listening is, if you go back in history and you were a aristocrat whose whole existence was being a gentleman or a woman and like doing art and culture, like it's so strange that now we live in a place where it has to make money for it to be worthy.
Yeah, like Da Vinci wasn't making bank; he was like just getting by. Just gonna leave that out there. But then he had the patrons who, like the King of France, who took him in and stuff. But it took time, and he was like struggling. Most artists, are. That's the struggling artist trope. But all right, love you, buddy.
Love you. Love everyone tuning in with us today. Thanks so much for all the support. We're going to keep going, whether you like it or not. And
That's
we'll see you
right.
next time.
Peace.